They already grilled us.
Yeah, ask us. I have no question, but you just start.
I guess we can start from.
Defer to the other guy.
I know, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
you
guess,
can
okay, I'm gonna start because,
Okay, go
we're
ahead.
like debating. All right, thank you, very nice presentation, very ambitious. I have a question specifically on the operations side, and in particular HR. It seems, when I say ambitious, it seems there's a lot of work to be done. You were mentioning building these relationships with businesses, having trade shows, even just manning a trade show booth, designing the trade show booth, and all that takes a lot of manpower. So what are your thoughts there? Because she runs quite a skinny operation. The women that are there are actually artisans producing. So who is going to do the work?
Yeah, I could take that. So currently, the way their organization is structured within the U.S. Is Nasreen is the executive director, and she has an associate director. So a lot of this work that's happening within Canada, it could be split up between them. It is a lot of work, but when you are running a small organization or NGO, usually the founder or the leaders are the ones who begin the work, and as it continues to grow and you grow capacity and resources, that's when you bring people on. So it would really be, in the short term, up to them to get the ball rolling. We envision them attending 1 or 2 trade shows per year to begin, so it's not too large of a load. But maybe in the long term, our goal would be to bring on more people as the revenues increased.
Okay, thank you. Can I go?
Yeah.
Really nice presentation. Thank you for that. And interesting ideas. So South Asian MNCs, right? And I'm glad you pointed out the value alignment and everything. But that's a very competitive space. There are lots of NGOs that are actually competing for that space because, geographically and culturally speaking, those are the issues of that region. For an organization as small as this, how are they going to compete? And second, you're talking about very large MNCs, right? Their foundations tend to have very tight control over the kind of products that come in or the kind of organizations that they work in. How are you going to build capacity within this organization that is very small and very scattered in terms of its mission, in terms of the impact it needs to have?
I can take that. So, first of all, if we compare the competition in the South Asian MNCs with the competition that we have with the global MNCs, so we have a lot lesser competition here, right? Because there'll be more NGOs reaching out to the global MNCs, and there'll be, we will have more alignment, like culturally and emotionally, with the South Asian MNCs.
Priyanka, I don't agree. Only because the region we are talking about has multiple NGOs, and multiple meaning like several hundred NGOs that are dealing with very similar issues.
Right.
Exactly.
So we understand, and we did consider that in our analysis. What we understand is Empowerment Collective already has a base in North America. So what we are targeting through our proposal is selling corporate gifts at the offices in North America. So that is what we are trying to do. And what we are trying to achieve from that, you're going to raise awareness in Canada, and you're going to raise awareness in India, which is a big market. So which means that there's more opportunity for global awareness. And just to give a couple of examples, for example, Infosys Foundation is led by Sudha Murthy, who's been at the forefront of women empowerment for the last 30 years in India. And her values resonate so much with Nasreen's. And that is a huge alignment that we believe Nasreen can, sort of leverage. And with that, you can this is like the foot in the door in Canada. And after that, it's just like onwards and upwards.
So the next part, how do you build capacity in this organization that currently does not have the capacity to scale up to, let's say, function for a large MNC like Infosys?
Sure. So how we see that is, for example, Infosys. When we did our research, we understand that some of these Indian tech firms in Canada, they have about 5,000 to 7,000 employees. So even if we can get like a small share of that from say one office, where there's an opportunity to sell like a few hundreds as employee appreciation gifts, we believe that Nasreen can kind of scale up the production capacity in Nepal and India based on that demand. But we'd like her to start these conversations with these foundations and with the MNCs first, understand and come to terms with what they demand. And this is like going to be like a long-term relationship that's going to help both the parties.
Thank you.
Finally have something. Now this is a small market to start off with. I mean, it's large MNCs, but it's a small market. But you've got a large number of products. What are you going to do about that? You've got lots of SKUs. You may have way too much variety for a small market.
So how we understand is we'd like you, so certain products will sell better through the B2B channel. For example, Empowerment Collective is already producing iPad covers, for example, and like laptop bags through sustainable material. We also see like Gen Y and Gen Z in Canada are orienting towards sustainable and eco-friendly products. So that will be the way to leverage your B2B channel. Through the B2C channel, depending on the interest of the consumer, which you already have a space on Etsy, through which you're selling multiple products from yoga mats to bags to purses. So that's the way we foresee. Yes, B2B channel is going to be specific for certain products, not for all, but B2C channel will take care of most of the products.
Anybody else? Go ahead. I had a question, I had a question which I mentioned about the financing part as well, which I think is a bit underestimated, the numbers that you have on that. But I really like overall approach that you have. It might be a bit ambitious, as Judy mentioned, but I think it's feasible. Because I really want you to, the problem will be a resources part here. And you mentioned the relationship between, if you put a foot on the door, how can you make the relationship and leverage that relationship for the foundations that all these MNCs have? That's one thing that I would like to explain a bit more on that one. The other thing is like you talked about, how can Nasreen make sure she takes advantage, or she uses the funding or grants available in Canada for women-based and business. Do you have any plan for that one as well?
I can speak to that. So once she starts making the connections with the Canadian offices of the MNC, that will help build up her credibility and gain her connections more into the foundations. So Nasreen has already done a fantastic job of raising funds from these grants and foundations. Every year she's raising tens of thousands of dollars, so this seems to be a very successful avenue for her. So I think for her the next step would be to be winning these grants from these foundations. Right now she's kind of achieved the lower and mid-level, and I think she's really eligible and has shown a track record that would really set her up well to receive from these larger organizations. And I think we did touch on this before, but as of now, because they are incorporated in the United States, it's very difficult for them to be raising Canadian funds through government agencies. However, as she continues to grow her network, she can look into more private foundations within Canada.
I have a question. So just related to the product positioning. So if you just put logo like local woman to the product, how do you compete like the Canadian, like First Nation, they also have like their local products? Like why company they wanted to sponsor like to purchase from Indian and not Canadian like itself? Another question is like, so how would consumers know our money we spend on products will finally go to those women? Like how do we help them eventually?
So for that, which is exactly why we envision once it's successful, once the channels are open and merged, which is why we envision success stories and testimonials to be put on LinkedIn. So or different periodic newsletters, which is how the customers would know that the consumers would know that this is where the money is going, where the mouth is. So that's for the second answer. And for your first answer, which is why before we start off, the first step in the B2B market is mission alignment with the South Asian MNCs. So there's a little cultural and mission alignment over there. So that's where we get the foot in the door, which is why we picked the let's say the section that we did.
I'll go ahead. I have a question. So it's regarding the alternatives comparison that you presented. Actually, can you elaborate on the community impact derived from your strategy and why it was green in comparison to the other strategies?
Sure, I can take that one. So the alternatives that we recommended for you is like having like a focused B2C channel. However, we believe that you are not going to be able to raise the kind of awareness that you can with the other option that we proposed. So which is why, so community, when we say community impact, we are trying to focus on the community that is actually in South Asia that is going to get help from this. We don't want Empowerment Collective just to be selling goods on an online channel. There are thousands of companies that are doing that. We want people to know that there is a unique mission that these guys are pursuing. And that is why we believe there's a message that needs to be driven home so that the consumer knows that he's having, just by having, say, like a towel from Empowerment Collective, he's having a positive impact on the lives of women to help them come out of slavery and have the freedom. So that's why we proposed two options. One was streamlined B2C, and the other was going through yoga studios and hotels. Again, there is like, it clearly doesn't align with the mission because especially post-COVID, yoga studios, what the research tells us is that people are asking them to bring their own mats. Again, the message that the Empowerment Collective is trying to convey is kind of lost if we take those two options. So we'd like you to give predominant importance to the message that is being conveyed. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, just following up on the questions you were getting in terms of capacity itself. That I guess you had to follow the last slide, but you didn't use it. But yeah, it's the same governance and operations. Like you said, this board is in Chicago. You're talking about bringing on this Canadian director, but we still don't know what does this board look like. How many people there are? Like who comprises this board? How can they share the work? At the end of the day, this organization is involved in fundraising and fund development and stuff, which is, in a not-for-profit space, is really a board responsibility. A lot of them get confused and have the executive director try to kill themselves with it, but the board has a key role to play there, right? That's on one side. And then even from the operations standpoint, if there's only 2 employees, I mean, what partnerships can they come up with to help to deal with some of this other stuff? Can they partner with schools or something to help with the marketing or something like that? Because that comes back to that question goes back all the time. Who's going to do what? And then there's also the last thing, like I said, in terms of the trade shows and that, like there's like TFO and some of those places who could help you to open some of those doors.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we kind of concur with you on that. We understand that there are multiple ways to tackle these things. So what our goal was to identify that the most cost-effective way to initiate your program in Canada. But yes, so you already have a base in North America where you're working on a volunteer basis. There are women who are part of the community that's kind of helping. So we'd like you to sort of distribute the responsibilities a little bit, and leverage Nesreen's position, so she initiates those corporate dialogues with these MNCs, and Rachel McKinnon, who's managing HR in Chicago, she can take up, attending trade shows and have volunteers on a case-by-case basis, depending on the demand. So that's how we'd like you to proceed with it. Yes, there is an opportunity to have volunteers, and depending on the scenario, we'd like you to bring in volunteers who are aligned with the mission, which can be done through your awareness by connecting with influencers. We'll be providing you with a share of voice about your commitment to the society and mission.
Another one. You say you want to go to trade shows. What do you want to do at the trade shows? I'm not sure you have the budget to have a booth.
So some of the trade shows that we recommended, for example, Fashion Takes Action, the platform that they offer. There it's online. It's like an opportunity to just go and share what your project is and what you're trying to do. And that's an opportunity to meet others with similar mission. For example, the Hemp Fabric Expo. There are multiple companies from Nepal working on like similar projects, like distributors. This is your opportunity to build those long-term connections. So to sort of distribute your risk. So you have like a B2B channel that is being strengthened and nurtured, and on the side you have other opportunities as well. So that's the way we propose
So
it.
you're going as a visitor and not a,
More like a visitor, and there are like lots of events that are online, webinars, and some of these shows, especially after COVID, like the Canadian Hemp Fabric Expo, when we checked in 2023, it's still happening online. So that's an opportunity to just register at a minimal cost and be a part of it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.